It's Beer O'Clock, and this is the Beer O'Clock Show, where every week we drink a selected beer and discuss its various merits. Joining me tonight, covered in carbonara sauce and bits of bacon, is my beer buddy and Italian beer lover and mentor, Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Did you hear how I kind of weaved that subtly, the Italian thing in tonight?
Yeah, seamless, some would tell me. So it's probably one of the most random, one of the more random introductions you've ever given me.
Well, I was typing in that thing, what's Italian? Carbonara sauce is the first thing I think of. Anyway. Also joining us is a special guest, our old friend from the new website, Beer East Anglia, and his own beer blog is Justin Mason. Hello, Justin.
Hello, good evening, chaps.
Very nice to have you along yet again.
Hi, Justin.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
We have a very, very, very interesting beer tonight. It's another one from our Italian beer series. It is the KeTo Reporter. And it's got some funny things in it, which might make it taste like a funny little beer. But we'll get to that in just a little while. Steve, let's start with you, mate, on what you've been drinking in the last week.
Oh, where do I start with this one? It's been a really interesting week beer-wise. So I met up with Sharona from Left Hand Brewing, who are sponsoring the next lock-in in January to sample one of the beers on the lock-in. I tried the Left Hand Nitro Milk Stout, which, mate, I think you're going to absolutely love it. When you get around to doing it, it's got this really creamy sort of coffeeness to it. It's absolutely stunning. So that was quite nice. And then continuing on a theme of drinking coffee-flavoured beers, I got my mitts on a bottle of the Weird Beard Out of Office Coffee IPA, which was really, really enjoyable. It's like a big, bold IPA, and then you get this massive coffee hit at the end of it, so it's kind of makes you think you're drinking something a lot darker than you're actually drinking.
Right.
So that's one to keep an eye out for. And then probably the beer of the week last week, which I know Justin will probably want to mention as well. And also there's some more coming on this right at the end of the show in this week's interview. Camden Town launched India Hell's Lager last week, IHL. Which Justin and I went along to one of the launch events that they did last week, where Alex Troncoso was talking about their lager triangle, and you can hear Alex talk about that in the interview at the end. But the beer is absolutely amazing, mate. It's we say it in the interview, and a lot of people have said this, and I know Justin's written this in his recent blog as well. But it's an absolute game changer in terms of the way I think the beer is going to be brewed and go in the UK in the next year or so.
Okay, I'll have to read that. Anything else to report, mate?
No, that's I had a lot of beer in the last, well, actually since the last time we recorded, because it's been a little bit longer than normal, and I've had some really good stuff and some not so great stuff, and that they were probably the three standouts for me.
How about you, Justin? What have you had lately? Well, let's narrow it down to the last 7 days.
Last 7 days. Well, I was in Edinburgh, of course, the week before, and I had some amazing beer when I was there. And I will say, even though this wasn't just in the last 7 days-ish, I have to pick, if I had to pick out one beer from a trip up to Edinburgh, it was a saison that I had in Cloisters Bar, called Sumac Me Feel Like a Natural Saison. And if that's just not a killer title that makes you want to buy that beer, it's great. It was brewed with sumac, which, if you're not familiar with sumac, what sumac is, it's an African, and grows in North America, where it's a fruit, and the seeds, it's a plant, and the seeds, they're ground, and they make sort of like a lemony spice, and they're quite often used in African dishes, that sort of thing. But also in that, the chap brewed it with rose water and couscous,
okay.
And it was like that was sweet couscous, just because he could. Apparently, the chap put it in just because he could. And it was, I can't remember the brewer, I think it was Elixir, but it tastes like Turkish delight. It was absolutely amazing.
Oh wow!
It was one of those beers that you go, hang on a minute, what on earth is this? Yeah, and a very good beer indeed. I say I met up with Steve on Tuesday, and I have to mention Brewdog Southside Zesta that we both had. That I think that's they did a collaboration with I think it's in Clapham, Brewdog in Clapham. The staff there went to, I think the staff from all the Brewdogs came up with ideas for beers, and a local brewery brewed that beer for them. And that was really good, like a tart limeade beer. And I was up there again in Brewdog in Camden, and I had the Brewdog, I think Brewdog Cardiff did with Celtic Experience, which was home of the fruitcakes, which was amazing. It was a sour, sweet, raspberry flavoured, but it had an underlying orange barley sugar flavour. Really, really good. Really, really good beer. And again, I had copious amounts of the IHL this week, and I've still got some in my fridge. I'm very pleased to say that I managed to capture and bring back with me, although one of my cans has gone to my wife, who's taken that. But yeah, I got invited back up there on the Thursday to chat with a load of people, and one of which was Will Hawkes. I had a good chat with, who you had in your show last week, didn't you? An interview with, and basically on the Thursday night, it was all IHL. It was just they just passed cans copiously round. It was a rather good evening, if I might say. So those were the highlights of my last 7 days.
Even more gutted I couldn't make that with you now, mate. If it was that readily available, because that is an incredible beer, and I just want as much of that as I can get my hands on over the next few weeks.
You were invited.
I know. I was unable to take up the invitation, and I was grateful for the invite.
It's a shame.
Very good, very good.
Mark, what about yourself? What have you been on this last week? You've had a little week off, haven't you? Relaxing in your country abode.
Yes, I went to the country estate, aka the in-laws' place up in Suffolk, which usually means I take a box of beer up with me, just to get me through the week. I had a few different ones. I'm actually going through my Untapped and I think, wow, I actually had some decent amount of beer in the last week. I normally have one or two between recordings. So I'll just run through the list really quickly. So I had the Bellman Liberty IPA from Partisan. I had Brooklyn Brewery's Black Chocolate Stout, which was very nice. Not that chocolatey, but nice. Anyway, had a couple from Crouch Vale, which was the Amarillo and Brewer's Gold. Joshua Jane from Ilkley, of Foam and Fury from Galway Bay, which was amazing. Massive hops on that one. And Lord Nelson from Weird Beard, which was very tasty indeed.
Not just Weird Beard though, mate. That was Andy Parker's latest collaboration with them.
Well, until he gets me my fucking Tutti Frutti Saison, he's not getting another mention on this show. I keep reminding him, every now and then I'll tweet him Tutti Frutti. So, get your act together, Andy. And I think that's about it. No, I had the
that's
Pogmophobia. Is that what
mate.
It's called for Magic Rock?
Oh yeah, what did you think of that?
That was unlike any Magic Rock beer I've had before, but it was quality.
Yeah,
it had like this because it's a Belgian red. Is that right?
Yes.
We've had these beers before where you drink it and it feels like it's sucking everything out of your tongue, like this really, like a sourness to it, a puckeringness. But it was it's so nice, and you need to drink more to get rid of the puckeriness. But it was really nice. I really liked it. I was worried it's going to have that Magic Rock taste, which kind of makes their beers a bit samey for me sometimes. I know that you guys probably think I'm a heretic for saying that.
Absolutely.
But
yes, most definitely.
But it didn't have that for me, so it was quite nice, and I really enjoyed it. I like Magic Rock beers, but anyway, I'm just saying. Steve,
there's still a few bottles of that knocking around if people want to get hold of it. There's certainly still some on the Magic Rock website, and it's well worth worth the try, I think.
It's only a little bottle. If you've not had it, grab it. It's really worth tasting. I'm glad I did.
I've not had it. I must admit, I've not had that. So
have you not?
Oh, mate.
No, for some reason, that and another beer that you mentioned, the Galway Bay beer, Foam and the Fury. There's a few people had some of those beers, and I'm quite jealous. I must admit, very good things I've heard about them. Very good things indeed.
I think we've had 2 beers now from Galway Bay, haven't we, Stephen? They're putting out some good beers over that side of the water.
That they are, and we might be featuring them on a future show, but I'm still not going to mention it on this show. So if you want to hear that, you've got to check out episode 41 of the 11 PM Somewhere podcast to hear that news.
Indeed.
That you've just said.
Well, no, not.
There's more specific items discussed.
Right. Yeah. We'll
anyway,
announce it on here at some point. Once I finish paying in his dues and signposting people towards his podcast. Sorry,
what happened in Scotland when he was there with you, Steve? You're paying back some secret debt. I don't know what happened.
Quite possibly, yeah. Who knows? You? Who knows what happens in Scotland stays in Scotland.
Right, saying that, here's the pips. Beep 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 beep. News.
Okay, so some couple of new beer announcements. The first one, Adnams Wild Hop has now been released. This was the project they put together where they asked East Anglian residents to go out and pick wild hops and deliver them to them at the brewery, and then they just chucked all the hops into this brew. So it's an amber beer, 4.8%. Got all sorts of hops in it. Is now available from the Adnam store and any good stockists of Adnam beers. The other beer announcement this week, we were talking about potential game change with the IHL. There's a beer coming out before the end of this year that is possibly going to rewrite the entire of 2014. This is a beer called Rule of Thirds. It's a 3-way collaboration between Siren, Beavertown and Magic Rock. Now, if this beer isn't the absolute dog bollocks, I don't know what it's going to be. It's coming out very, very soon. They've announced a northern release date and party for it, which will be on the 19th of November at the Friends of Ham in Leeds. They're yet to announce a southern launch date for it, but that is going to be quite potentially a very, very special beer. Because I think Justin asked Siren outwardly, is it the collaboration as the label suggests? And they answered yes, and the label suggests it's a 3-way blending of Soundwave, Cannonball and Gamma Ray, which are quite possibly 3 of the best beers being brewed in the UK right now. So that's something to look forward to.
I have further news on that.
Okay.
Yes, I
getting more
had
pips.
a chance to chat to Logan on Thursday. He was at the IHL event, and the London release will be on the Saturday at Beavertown, which will be what day would that be? Where are we? 15th, 22nd. That make it right? The Saturday the 22nd of November.
Yeah.
So that'll be at Beavertown, and that'll be at the brewery, and that's the London release date. That's when it will be available there. He was very excited about it when I spoke to him on Thursday. So certainly one to look forward to.
Check out that exclusive news tonight as well from our reporter in the field on this evening's news show. We haven't had any Brewdog news for a couple of weeks, so let's give you a couple of items of Brewdog news. First one, Nanny State, which is their 0.5% beer,
Lemonade.
basically a non-alcoholic hop bomb. It's an Imperial Mild. Is now available in Tesco's UK. So you heard that here. Everybody knows that because they released it last week. But Nanny State from Brewdog now available in Tesco's. The other piece of Brewdog news, which is probably slightly more newsworthy, is they've launched a new thing called the Nomad Brewing Collective, or a name soon to be changed apparently because there's already a Nomad Brewing company. Basically, this is Equity for Punks meets Matchtag meets Gypsy Brewing. And essentially what they're doing is it's going to be a sister brewery to Brewdog, and they're essentially going to let anybody that's got a share through the Equity for Punk scheme come up with suggesting a beer. And they're going to brew 2 batches of beer per year, and all of the profits will go to charities that are chosen by the Equity Punks. So it sounds like a really exciting idea, actually, if you're an Equity for Punk shareholder. They're currently asking people to design a logo, and they'll be launching this officially in spring 2015. So more details on that and the availability of Nanny State in Tesco's available from brewdog.com. Click on their blog link. And then 2 more bits of news. Just a quick one to say that Owls by Mal have announced their next Twitter tasting, which will take place on the 19th of November and will be with Alchemy Brewing. There are a couple of beers currently available on the Owls by Mal website at discounted rate that you can buy to get in for this Twitter tasting that they're running. But this one's going to be hosted by the Half Pint Gentleman. And the idea is it's a little bit along the style of any Twitter tasting. You drink your beer, you share your thoughts, you hashtag it beery bits, and you basically get involved. So that's the 19th of November. But more details about that on Owls by Mal's website, owlsbymal.co.uk, under their blog section. And then the final piece of news this week, and this is maybe the end of the news and into a bit more of an open discussion about the recent launch of There's a Beer for That. So there was a thing launched last summer which was a massive failure by a lot of the big breweries in the UK. So this has been rehashed into a thing called There's a Beer for That, which is a campaign that's backed by Britain's Beer Alliance, which is, as I say, it's a coming together of the British Beer and Pub Association, Heineken, Carlsberg, SAB Miller, AB InBev, Molson Coors, Enterprise Inn, Shepherd Neames, Castmark, Everard's, Beer Academy, Sieber, Robinson's, Fuller's, Thwaites, Budvar, Charles Wells, and a load of others that have all put their name to being involved in this. They've invested 10 million into a new campaign that is designed to get people into drinking beers. Now, there's been a lot of discussion on the internet and on Twitter over the last week about this, particularly in regards to the Twitter bot that is going to be managing the feed that people, I imagine, are going to buy a break, because you can request food and beer matching services by using the hashtag beer match, and then the matching bot will send you a suggestion. I know, Mark, you and I have already had a bit of fun trying to get some suggestions out of it, but I imagine once it goes properly live, Twitter will break it within a day. It is my reckoning. But that's the campaign. You can find out all about it at beerforthat.com. There's a really lovely advert that's been released to go alongside it. Makes it feel like beer's all warming and should be the thing to be involved in. There's been some blogs that have been put out that are very, very critical of the scheme. To be honest with you, I haven't seen too many good things written about it by the blogging community. If you're particularly interested in one of the blogs, and the only reason I'm highlighting this one is because of one of the responses on it, Chris Spall at the beerdiary.wordpress.com wrote a piece about it, and then in the comments, Pete Brown, the well-renowned beer writer, has responded to Chris's comments, and it's probably worth reading Chris's blog and then Pete's reply as one, because it does provide a very balanced argument to it. I'm quite keen to see what you guys think of the whole thing, actually, to see if you've got an opinion on it, because I think the jury's a little bit out with me at the moment.
Well, let's see what Justin has to say so I can agree with him.
I'm never short of an opinion. I have an opinion for that.
Is there a beer to go with that opinion?
There must be. There's an opinion to go with my beer. I think the reason you haven't seen a lot of positive comments is because it's very much a wait and see. The advert itself is very, as you say, everyone, you list a load of foods and then you go, and then there's a beer for that, and put them in cosy middle class situations or in a pub with a disapproving older gentleman glancing at the hipster, which is quite the scene that most people have commented on. There's a couple of blogs that I've been reading around that have mentioned what you are allowed to do in TV advertising when it comes to alcohol. One of the things is you can't show people drinking. And you can't show that beer is enjoyable or makes you popular with women, that sort of thing. Although apparently you can do that with deodorant, and that's absolutely fine. But you can't. So that's why I think you haven't seen many positive comments. Now, when I saw it, I must admit, I just went, well, this is all very trite. The tune's a bit jolly, and no one will pay any attention to it. And on the most part, they haven't. I mean, I've had people say to me, oh, have you seen that advert for beer? And I said, oh, yeah, what the... I can't remember what it's called now. That's how memorable it is. There's a beer for that one. And they've gone, yeah. And I said, what do you think? And they said, well, I know like beer. So I don't think people have got an opinion on it. So I'm not quite sure who the target audience is, to be perfectly honest, because if you read the blogs, people have got some very negative opinions, thinking that this is the big brewers, and possibly quite rightly, standing on the shoulders of the little brewers going, look at me, when actually the smaller independent brewers don't need this sort of shout out, brew ha ha, for want of a better word. They just don't need it. But trying to get onto the act and muscle in on a bit of it's the craft beer scene, and it's growing, and it is growing. It's now become a revolution, as lots of people have mentioned in the past few months, actually. I don't think... We'll have to wait and see, I think, is the honest answer from me. I am opinionated, but I think it'll just blow over in a couple of weeks, to be perfectly honest.
It's a lot of money that's been thrown at something for it to blow over, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an awful lot of money.
10 million for something that, on the whole, is probably going to have been forgotten by people the minute that they see it.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's 10 million, but you do wonder how much of that went in the sort of director's pocket and actually making the advert itself. I mean, if you see it as an advert, is it an advert or an infomercial, or what is it? Who is it advertising? It's advertising, obviously, it's the next stage of whatever they're doing, but there's no seems to be much coordination. I don't know if you've seen the thing that Melissa Cole tweeted the other day. It was a BuzzFeed thing that there's a beer for that.
Saw that.
Did you see that? And did you read down the beers? And really, if you read down the descriptions, what kind of beer are you? What kind of beer drinker are you? The only one that said you are fun and gregarious, people come to you, you tell dirty jokes, that sort of thing, was the fruit beers. And I'm thinking, really? Do people wanting to promote fruit beers? I mean, how many people drink fruit beers? And you go, well, actually, there's not really that many smaller independent brewers producing fruit beers. If you discount sours, which aren't mentioned on that list, it's only the larger brewers. So it's clearly, you can see where it's all ending up here.
Mark, have you got any thoughts on it?
Well, I haven't seen the ad. The only thing I've taken in from it is Matt Curtis's blog post, and then I went straight to Twitter and tried to come up with really shitty combinations for beer and food using the beer match hashtag. But obviously their Twitter bot isn't active yet, so I was a little bit disappointed. Like I said to you, Steve, before, while we're waiting for Justin to come in, it's great to see people promoting beer and the beer industry, but as soon as you get marketing companies involved and you start throwing shitloads of money at what is basically a chasm of marketing costs, you can't quantify it. 10 million quid, how, for a TV advert, which obviously costs money to make, put together, consult, and actually put on TV or whatever, what's going, like Justin said, if it blows over in a few weeks, what's the end result? All these breweries are now 10 million quid in the hole. I don't know. I don't really know what to make of it. I think I'm not really a big fan of gimmicks. Like you said, Steve, I think people are going to take the piss out of the hashtag once it starts coming onto active social media. Yeah, it's a bit disappointing seeing some of the breweries involved in this, but you can understand why they're not wanting to be excluded from something that could potentially be decent, but we'll just have to see. At the end of the day, the craft beer scene isn't going to be affected by it, other than you might get a handful of people that are interested in beer, but they're going to still go to Fuller's pubs, or they're going to go to Wetherspoons, where they know they can get beer.
Yeah. That's a good point. I think there's just and just to sum this up, really, because I don't want to go on about this all night, because to be honest with you, I'm thirsty and I want the beer. But there's a couple of things that I just wanted to, I guess, say just in summary. I mean, one, is it £10 million that's just been thrown at the advert, or is there more to the campaign than that? And hopefully, if there is more to the campaign than just the advert, then we might see a little bit more coming out of it maybe after Christmas. Because for me, again, I would question, especially if you look in the last week, that all the big supermarkets have come out with their Christmas adverts. This beer advert is just going to be lost now, because it just seems to have been released at the wrong time of the year. So hopefully that's just a part of it. I think that the Twitter bot thing, I think, is just absolutely hysterical, because bearing in mind that's where the craft community kind of lives, is on Twitter.
Yeah.
They are just going to destroy it. That they're going to, that poor bot, I'm actually beginning to feel sorry for, because it's not going to know what to do with some of the suggestions it's going to get. And I guess, I suppose, thirdly, yes, like you say, mate, I'm disappointed, and I'm disappointed to see Foots and names against this campaign, because I actually kind of think that they're doing all right on their own in terms of the beers that they're producing. So why put your name to something other than for the fear of missing out? So I think for me, the jury's going to remain out on this one. And we'll wait and see how the campaign goes and how the campaign progresses. But I'd be, I suppose, just to keep the conversation going, if anybody wants to feedback on what we're saying here, either leave a note on tonight's show post, or let us know your thoughts on Twitter about the There's a Beer for That campaign. And maybe let me know what that beer is, because I'd love to know what the beer for that is. Let's have your own suggestions, and of course use the beer match hashtag and see what you can come up with, see what you can get out of that poor bot.
Being slightly cynical, will the beer match bot suggest any beers that aren't produced by the breweries that are directly involved in paying for this campaign?
I think from what I've seen so far, it seems to be suggesting a combination of, yes, specific beers from those breweries, or a very generically termed, or I think a good IPA would go with that.
Right.
Would you think a good IPA? Because I believe it's 10.
What would be interesting for some geeky craft beer lover to do is create a Twitter bot where you could tweet the name of a beer with a hashtag, and it would use your Twitter location to suggest the nearest pub or retail establishment where you could purchase that beer.
Wouldn't that have been a better use of 10 million?
I think so.
To have created a system like that. I mean, it's there in Untapped. That feature's in Untapped. It's one that I've never really used, but you can search for the best beers around you. Why not invest money in something useful?
Yep.
The thing is, though, if you've got £10 million to spend, you want people to buy your product. That is why you're putting the money in.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. And that's it. And that's why they've done it.
But if they're masking it as a something to promote beer in general, then you would hope there would be someone a little bit looser in what they suggest. But anyway, I'll stop being Mr. Cynical on that.
Yeah, I'm bored of this discussion now, and I've also just realised that the news item as well, so I need to go back.
Is there a beer for
just to say, in this, is there a beer for that? I don't know, but there might be many beers for this next news item. The Beer O'Clock Show Crimbo Crawl, Saturday the 13th of December. We've announced the details of the full route now. You can see the details up on the website, but we'll be starting at Beavertown Brewery at 12 o'clock. From there, we'll be heading to the Hop and Berry in Islington, which serves exclusively beers that are brewed in London. From there, we'll be going down to the new brew house and kitchen in Islington, which is the brew pub that Justin and I visited a few weeks back and I spoke about on the last show. Then we'll be trekking across the Euston Tap for no other reason than it's the best point to change underground lines, and while we're changing lines, we may as well have a quick beer in the place that craft beer maybe originated in London, in one of the first well-known craft beer bars. And then from there, we'll be finishing the evening at Brewdog Shepherd's Bush. So come and join us for the whole of it from 12 o'clock from Beavertown, on the route. But let us know if you're coming. Just tweet us and let us know, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Saturday, 13th of December.
Yeah, or drop us, if you're not on Twitter, drop us a comment on this episode, post on the blog, and just let us know that you're going to be coming along and how we can get in touch with you, just to keep in touch and say where we are and all that kind of crap. Right, okay, shall we get into this week's beer, guys?
Please, let's.
Yes. It took a very long time to get to it.
The longest pre-beer waffle ever.
As I said, tonight's
because
beer...
you're worried about the contents.
No, not at all.
Tonight's beer is from... What's the brewery that does this one? I can't see it on...
Birra del Borgo.
Birra del Borgo. It is the KeTo Reporter, which is I'm assuming, a porter, but it's made with tobacco. Not the only ingredient. There's plenty of other ingredients in it. But I'm a little bit frightened. But I know Justin's had it before, and he's still with us. So let's get into it, guys, and let's get it over and done with.
Before you drink it, I mentioned, right? Obviously, it's got tobacco and it's got tobacco leaves in it. They use Kentucky Toscano tobacco, which they use to manufactured popular cigars in Italy. It's cultivated in various parts of Italy, and what they do is they ferment this tobacco before they put it in the cigars. So they steep it in water and then oven cure it for a few days before they put it in the cigars. Now, obviously, when they do this, what it does is it increases the nicotine content of the beer. It's quite renowned for being a high nicotine content, this particular tobacco leaf. And nicotine is obviously lethal, and lethal if ingested. And 0.003 milligrams, 30 milligrams is enough to kill 50 out of 100 humans. So that's a percentage of 0.003% if ingested. It's as toxic as hydrogen cyanide and more toxic than strychnine and arsenic.
Right.
So
well,
just for the beer.
Cheers,
Okay,
guys.
thanks for listening to the Beer O'Clock Show this week.
Oh, dearie me. If you're listening to this, that means we survived. It's okay. Because I have to edit this first. Got an interesting nose on it.
It's got a really interesting aroma, actually. When I cracked the bottle, the first thing I got from it was it almost had an aroma like you'd get from a sour beer or from a lambic. It had that kind of sweetness coming out of it. But just sort of put it into the glass now and letting it settle a bit, and it's still got a very sweet aroma. But I'm certainly not picking up any of the tobacco in it on the aroma. It just smells like a very, very sweet porter.
It is. You get that sweet vanilla milkiness. There's a few woody notes in there. I think it's certainly one that needs to warm. Well, I've had mine around about, I would say this is around about 8 to 10 degrees. It needs to be a bit warmer. Yeah, I mean, tipping it and rolling it, there's more coming through now as it's warming in my hands. Yeah, there it is. You can smell tobacco. If you hold it in your hands and warm it and roll it.
Oh, yeah. I can get that coming through now. Once I've done your rolling,
you can smell the tobacco.
Yeah.
I'm still just getting a hint of it. I want to get into this. I want to give this a taste and see what it tastes like.
All right. Tell my mum I love her. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Not to be funny, but that's quite a nice smoky porter.
It is like it's got that real smokiness coming through it. It's maybe not as heavy as the smoke that you get from, say, like Smog Rocket or something like that.
Yep.
But it's there in the background. It's not overpowering in any way.
You're not getting smoke that you would expect to get if you're using Bamberg malt, for example. It's not got a smoked malt flavour. It's more that taste of a good cigar, and certainly in the finish, you get the notes of the tobacco. If you have a good cigar and you take it away from your lips, I don't know if you know if you've smoked cigars, but you get little bits of tobacco sometimes around your lips, just cigar, and it's got that sort of. If you lick your lips, it's there, and it actually becomes quite intense.
Trust you to have a palate reference for that, mate.
You wouldn't expect anything less, though, would you?
No.
Let's be honest.
I was trying to work out how they actually do this. Best guess to do this is that they use it in something like you would French press, sort of like a cafetiere. So you put the leaves in and you put the beer on top and you press it, so you get an infusion, and then drain away the surplus liquid, leaving the leaves behind. In enough volume that would take on this flavour, and I think the character is really, it's coming through now. In fact, after the first sip, I can still taste it, and that's a good minute and a half.
It's got a very very dry finish to it. Leaves me wanting something more, and I don't know what that is. I'm not saying by any stretch of the emotions that's a bad thing, but it's the finish is quite strange on it, actually.
Yeah, I was a bit worried when we were told that it had tobacco in it, that the taste was going to be kind of reminiscent of like wet dark leaves. Like you get banana leaves and all that kind of thing in the dark tropical leaves. I don't know what raw tobacco looks like or smells like or anything like that. But that's what I was a bit worried about. But this is actually quite pleasant. It's like a softly smoked porter. It's not overwhelming at all.
It's in there, and it infuses all the way. Travels all the way through the length of the beer. You get. I'm getting more now as I'm down the glass in the aroma. And as you taste it, there's some lovely chocolatey notes in there as well. Now, I've read this before, I agree with it now. I've had this a second time. A good square of dark, like 70% cocoa chocolate with this would be superb, I think.
I can see how that would work. I think the bitterness would balance so well.
Yeah.
Or I think this with some nice piece of sharp cheesecake would be quite nice, I think.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that would contrast quite nicely.
Yeah.
The chocolatey would cut through some of the creaminess of the cheesecake. Yeah, because it's got a little bitterness in there. There is a bitter element to this. This is not a smooth beer by any stretch of the imagination. This is not a smooth porter. But it's
funny
got
with
a character all of its own.
With the filminess that it leaves in your mouth being quite a thick beer. I'm kind of working that around inside my mouth, and I'm getting that you just had a cigarette type of taste coming through. Just, working the filminess out of my mouth.
Yeah, it's staying there, isn't it? Yeah.
I think that's what I was saying about the finish for me. I'm not thrilled with the finish of it. I'm enjoying the flavour that's coming through, but there's a strange finish to it that I'm not getting on with.
See, in contrast, I really like the finish. The finish in the beer for me is often the best bit, and I do like a sustained finish, and finding little bits here and there the more it stays in your mouth, different things happen, and it is becoming. The more I'm drinking it, the drier it seems to be.
I'm finding it's got kind of like the thing that lasts for me is this kind of mid-palate bitterness, but it's not, like you get a good IPA and it just like resides at the back of your mouth. It's, like a big load of hops sitting at the back of the mouth. Or if it's a nice sweet beer, you have that kind of filling your mouth with fruitiness or sweetness. This kind of sits in the middle and then just doesn't do anything in the long game for me. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, because you do taste where it does hit across like the middle third of your tongue, almost, and then for me it rolls forward back towards the lips. It's very interesting, but nothing at the back. I'm not getting anything at the back of my throat, around there. We'd expect, and even when I breathe out, there's hardly anything there, but I can still taste it on the lips.
I think if you make a direct comparison in terms of style to what we did last week, which was the Bad Kitty Vanilla Porter, we were absolutely raving about that beer from beginning to end. So the flavour of it, the taste, the finish was all spot on. For me, this just hasn't got that raveable quality. It's an okay, just about smoked porter with a hint of a strange taste and a funny finish for me.
See, I would have to disagree with you and say this isn't a smoked porter. It's a porter with an element and that element is tobacco. But I differentiate that from smoke, from the smokiness. I'm not getting any smokiness at all.
Oh, I'm getting smokiness on this. Not like Steve said, not to the level that you would get from Smog Rocket or anything like that, but there's a smokiness there for me. But that may be me just misrepresenting what is that tobacco flavours.
There's I can't see. I'm not getting myself any smokiness. There's a creaminess to it, maybe a little of oiliness. Is book description. There's an oiliness. I think the characteristic, and I think the big selling point of this beer is, of course, that it's brewed with tobacco. And it's an unusual ingredient, and it's brewed with Italian ingredients as well. Did you have the week before? Was it the Nationale?
Yeah,
it's the one you had 2 weeks ago. Yeah, which is brewed with exclusively Italian ingredients, and I think this is similarly brewed with exclusively Italian ingredients. And the tobacco adds an extra element. Yeah, it's subtle, and it's a different dimension. I think if you gave this to somebody and you didn't tell them what was in it, they'd just down it and go, right, where's my next beer? If you explore it a bit more, yeah, there's a bit more in there. There's a nice woodiness, sort of, I don't know, is it cedar bark or something like that? Some sort of, that sort of dark, perhaps reddy wood that I'm getting as well, alongside the tobacco. It's really nice.
It's just another example of, I suppose, of these Italian beers that we've been doing this season, and the fact that the Italian breweries aren't scared to experiment with different ingredients in beer, and ingredients that maybe aren't that traditionally used elsewhere. Every one that we've had so far has had something specific about it, or a certain thing about it, and this is just another example of that, where it's a porter, and yes, it's been brewed with tobacco, gives it interesting flavours, and certainly one for trying.
Dark chocolate ghetto would go well with this as well, I think.
You're still thinking of foods that will go with it. In particular, dessert.
If there's a dessert for that, yeah.
See, I think you could have a cheese, but not too strong a cheese. So I think if you had a mid blue cheese would go. I think would lose that tobacco element. I think you'd just get lost. So perhaps you want to rein it into something like, I think Gouda would work quite nicely. This would be quite a good cheese to have with that.
Mm-hmm.
Gouda and a decent, perhaps a digestive, and that would make quite a nice supper.
Is there a biscuit for that?
No, the digestive is the biscuit.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying thinking out loud and thinking on my feet, but I think that a good digestive biscuit, in the biscuit selection, the digestive.
So, do you want some? We've got some breaking news. Do you want some actual live breaking news as we record?
Come on then.
Yeah, okay. Obviously, while we're recording tonight, we announced on Twitter that the Crimbo Crawl was happening. While we've been online tonight, Brewhouse and Kitchen Islington have been chatting to us about it, and they've arranged a Meet the Brewer session for us at their pub when we reach there. So they'll be brewing beer on that day, and their brewer will be available for a chat with us when we arrive as well. So thanks to the guys at Brewhouse and Kitchen Islington for that. Be a good opportunity for anybody who wants to have a chat with a live brewer on the day to have. Not that there'll probably be some of them on the route anyway, but I just thought it was quite a nice offer that they've made to make sure that the brewer's around for any questions that we might have.
Yeah, it's amazing. Cool.
He's a nice chap as well, the Brewhouse and Kitchen. He's more than happy to chat and talk about the beers that he's brewing. So yeah, that'd be quite interesting.
Very good. Right, do we have any final comments on this beer, the KeTo Reporter from Beer of the Burger? Beer of the Bulgar? What's it called again?
Beer del Borgo.
Beer del Borgo, yeah.
I mean, just having have you guys got any left in your glasses?
I've got a tiny little bit.
I don't know if I want to finish it.
You don't want to finish it? As I say, as it's warming up, it's becoming a bit more intense. I'm getting more of that tobacco-y taste.
Yeah, I was just about to say, as it's warmed, it's got a little bit better in terms of flavours. Have become a little bit stronger. I'm still not enjoying the finish on it though. That's the thing that's letting this beer down for me is the finish.
And speaking as an ex-smoker who did enjoy the odd cigar, I'm really enjoying this beer. So it doesn't remind of smoking, but there are elements there that I can associate it with the tobacco and the feeling of the tobacco on my lips and tongue, is not actually with the smoke, but with the flavour of actually having a cigar in your mouth. So yeah, I'm impressed. I really like this. I like this beer a lot.
Would this work with a cigar? Is there a cigar for that?
I think there probably would be. I think if you had a decent cigar, I can't see any reason why it wouldn't. I think it would work in perfect harmony. But most porters and stouts would, to be fair.
Right. Okay. So that's the KeTo reporter from Bilderberger. Thanks very much, Justin, for that review. It's nice to have someone who actually did some research. Appreciate it. Now, Steve.
Yes, mate.
Do we have an Instagram for that?
I think there is an Instagram for that. Yeah. It's been a tough competition this week because it's been a little bit longer than it maybe normally would be. Because obviously we recorded last week's show a few days before we normally would. So there's a few mentions I want to make. First one, fantastic film at E&G, a very topical photo on Halloween of a pumpkin drinking a bottle of Brewdog Pumpkinhead, which was quite a nice picture. And then Son of a Gun made a black and tan using 2 of the Galway Bay beers and took a stunning picture of it in his back garden, which looks really good. But they're just mentions this week. This week's winner, and I couldn't actually, for the first time ever, I couldn't split two pictures this week. So I'm going to give a joint prize this week, and this means that both of these pictures will go through to next week's grand off for one of the boxes of the Beer 52 beers that we've got. So the first winner this week is Sparkyrite. He's won before for a picture of Mission beer, which is a massive can of beer that he's bought. One of the biggest cans I've ever seen that he took a picture of. Mission IPA, I believe that was. It was a beer that I think he's picked up from the Ales by Mail selection. So that's one of our joint winners. And the other joint winner, fantastic film, E&G, for a simply stunning picture of Brewdog's 5 a.m. Well, it's now called 5 a.m. Red Ale, but we're always going to know it as 5 a.m. Sane.
Yeah.
An amazing picture that he took against the backdrop of his white kitchen, and the red colours in the label and the beer works really well. So those two join Justin's picture and Sean Smith's picture of the Adnam smoked beer in front of a fire. Those 4 beers go through to next week's final for the decision on which one is the best picture to win the box of Beer 52 beers.
1970s boy.
which you'll be choosing, by the way, Mark. I'm going to send the picture. I'm going to send the pictures to you, and you're going to choose the winner.
Yay! I get to be involved.
And you're going to announce it next. I don't want to know. You'll announce the winner of that one next week. So
wow, I get to do something other than.
But keep the pictures coming in. Yeah, keep the pictures coming in on Instagram. Use the hashtag. Cheers, guys, and we will find you. The more creative the picture, the more chance you've got of a mention. And of course, winning the elusive prize.
Very good. This week's beer is obviously one of our beers from Italy, and you can get this beer along with all the others we're featuring this season from beersfromitaly.com. All of our season 5 beers, the Italian ones at least, can be ordered from their website with a 15% discount. Go to our website at beeroclockshow.co.uk and click on the season 5 beer list and scroll to the bottom where the discount code is right there, as well as a link to their website. They have this discovery box which has all the beers we're featuring this season in it, and you can just buy that, 15% discount, boom, you're done. The Beer O'Clock Show is proud to be supported by Ales by Mail, your premier destination for bottled real ales delivered directly to your door. Visit alesbymail.co.uk and use the discount code BOCS10 for a 10% discount across their entire bottled range. Not their beer club or anything like that, just their beers. Steve, what's coming up next week, mate? A little bit special.
Yep, we are featuring a beer that Justin mentioned, the Vienna IPA, which was brewed by Graham Nelson, a home brewer at Thornbridge Brewery, as part of their homebrew competition that they ran earlier on in the year. And not only will we be being joined on the show by Graham himself to talk to us about his beer and what it feels like to have had it produced by Thornbridge and now available in Waitrose stores all over the country. But we'll also be being joined by Rob Lovett, who's the head brewer at Thornbridge, to talk to us a little bit about the Thornbridge range and how they got involved in the competition. So, yeah, quite a big show next week, considering, I think we mentioned this a few weeks ago, Thornbridge are our most featured brewery ever on the Beer O'Clock show. We've featured quite a few of their beers now. It will be nice to have the guy on that is responsible for being in charge of a lot of those beers.
Yeah, indeed.
So that's quite an exciting show next week.
Yeah. Justin, where can we find you online, mate?
You can find me online on Twitter at 70s Boy. You can find my blog at masonjust.blogspot.com. You can also find me on Beer East Anglia. Hopefully some more content will be going up soon. I know that there's some more reviews that myself and we now have Nate Dogg on board doing Norfolk, so some more reviews are going to be going up as well as some more breweries. So you can Beer East Anglia. So on Twitter at Beer East Anglia.
Very good. You can find us online at beeroclockshow.co.uk. Twitter is at beeroclockshow. Instagram is at Beer O'Clock Show. Untapped is at Beer O'Clock Show. Steve, I'm on Untapped at Roku, and I'm on Twitter at Roku Beer. Stay tuned to the end of this show after the tinkly tinkly music for an interview between Steve and what's his face from Camden Brewery.
Alex Troncoso and
my old mate Alex.
Justin was
and
involved
I've been on the
interview
interview
as well.
And Justin sticks his nose in as well.
Yeah.
Very good. Until next week when we're doing the Thornbridge Vienna IPA with Graham and Rob. Steve, highlight of my week.
It's been the highlight of week. Oh no!
Highlight of my week as well. We both get it in before it.
Absolute twats. The pair of you, honestly.
I think that has to be said now by every guest on your show.
No, don't. I'll tell you what. Rob's got a lot to answer for. I'm going to have some stern words with him the next time I see him.
I've got on my notes for today. I've got written at the top highlight of my week.
Right,
I've got to find a new catchphrase, aren't I? It's as simple as that.
Until next week, mate. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
It's Beer O'Clock, and we're here at the Temple of IHL with Alex Troncoso, the Director of Brewing at Camden Town. Alex, this is your third time on the Beer O'Clock show. Welcome.
Oh, thank you very much.
And also tonight we've got Justin Mason with us at 1970s Boy, hashtag some random bloke off Twitter. Justin, welcome to the Beer O'Clock show again.
Thank you ever so much.
Okay, so we've been enjoying the IHL tonight. We'll get on to that in a while. First of all, there's a few questions that we need to just address. Alex, tonight you've been talking to the masses outside about the lager triangle. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, it's an imaginary triangle that I drew on a whiteboard one day. But in essence, what it was is trying to define in our mind why some various beers should exist. So we had Hells. We thought about what we could have to complement that Hells. So one of them being IHL, and that has a purpose, and then the other one being Camden Pils now, which also has a clear purpose. So it's more clear for everyone involved, internally anyway.
Okay, and Camden Pils is an evolution of the beer that was previously the USA Hells.
Yeah, so that was, I guess, the original starting point. But what we always felt with USA, although it was a great beer, it probably lacked a little bit of direction in that it was. We ultimately wanted a beer that's probably like had a step up in bitterness, was a little bit more clear cut, and probably get a different hop profile, which is what we're working on with Pils, to get more of like a piney hop rather than fruity hop. So if we think about the lager triangle, then we have Hells, which is like classic subtle hoppy. We have Pils, which would be more piney, and then we have IHL, which is more like everything rolled up into one.
Okay, and Justin, we've been sampling those beers tonight. What are your thoughts on the three beers?
I must admit, I'm very, very impressed with the Hells. I love anyway. The Pilsner, I very, very like, but this IHL is astonishingly good. Now, I asked Alex earlier, I have to forewarn that I preempted these questions, but you've done the progression from, as you know, from the Camden Wheat to the Camden Wit, Gentleman's Wit, and you've done the progression from the unfiltered USA Hells to this Pils. Is it you just get bored, or is it you changing the ingredients?
No, it's not that. Well, some of us might get bored, but what I'm trying to do now is basically what I want is everything we make to have a specific purpose. I think, like with wheat, for instance, and I was mentioning earlier that we were literally just speaking about that today and how that was fantastic beer, and probably at the time we were making it at Camden, probably no one really fully understood it, you know. So we're looking at potentially we'll make some next year, or maybe there's probably a high likelihood.
Please do.
Yeah, so because I thought it was fantastic as well. And then with USA, it was more just like with moving to Pils, it's more just to like actually make it clear in our mind why that beer should exist, you know. So USA in essence is sort of gone, and Pils is sort of the new kid on the block in that sort of area.
I must admit, and I prefer to be perfectly honest, much prefer the Pils. It's a very clean tasting beer. It's got some lovely flavours, sort of like there are humbug and honey flavours coming through, and the finish is so dry. It's astonishing.
Yeah, and that's the thing with probably the most significant change in what we're doing before is actually we stepped up the bitterness level pretty by a large amount, and that's to actually help give the beer a lot more sort of crisp and defined bitterness. So we wanted a beer, if you said drinking Pils, actually tastes like it's a Pils, you know, like it's more bitter, and you can actually taste the bitterness and the hops in it.
I must admit, it's classic Pils, but it's also got I found a little edginess to it, which was the way the fruit rose and came down at the end and then moved away, which was very, very good indeed. I absolutely adored it, I must admit. It's classic.
Oh, well, good.
So let's talk IHL, the genesis of this beer. Where did the idea come from originally?
So we wanted to do a hoppy beer. We wanted to do something a bit different. And I mean, there's a few people making hoppy lagers out there, so we wanted to do our Camden version. I think the IPAs, there's already a lot of IPAs out there, so what could we do in a hoppy field that is not sort of an IPA, and what is very Camden, because we like to specialize in lagers, would be to do a hoppy lager. But we try and stick with in this beer, we've sort of stuck with our principles of like our lager brewing, which is to keep the malt grist very simple, keep it quite pale so it's not too sweet, and then control the mashing regime to get the beer very dry, and then basically hop the hell out of it. So.
And personally, I love things having the hell hopped out of them. Justin, what are your thoughts on the IHL?
I actually think it is a game-changing beer. I've not had anything like this. If you put this in front of me, I would say IPA. Hang on, this finishes a lager. I've not had anything that works this. I can't think of anyone else who's doing something like this or has done anyone to this degree. Have you tasted anything that tasted like this before?
I mean, I've had a lot of IPAs.
This is
probably
an IPA. This is a lager.
Yeah, no, probably not really. I haven't been to every corner of the globe, but no, probably not. And I think for me, the biggest thing with this beer is like to have all those hops and have it balanced, but not have any sweet, cloying malt character. That's the sort of trick.
Certainly none of that in there. It's pure. It's almost a lager with squeezed hop juice running through it, which is astonishingly good. it's bitter, it rises and it falls, and it just fades away at the end.
Yeah.
Which is what you would expect from a really good lager.
Yeah. So,
How have you done this?
I don't know. So the greatest things happen by accident, maybe.
You don't know how you've done it. Brilliant.
No, but I mean,
we've just created this amazing beer, and we've got no idea how we got to it.
no, I mean it was everything was calculated to a degree. So just from experience, we know okay, we need to get the beer dry, and you can you learn that if you look at a lot of Belgian beers, like they might be strong, but they're very dry, so you don't have that sort of cloying kind of sweet character. So that's kind of lesson one. Lesson two is to get the malt grist just enough to keep everything in balance. That's looking at, like I said earlier, we just use Pilsner malt and a little bit of Munich and a little bit of Carapils. We're not going too heavy on that. So everything's like a fine line, and it's what you got to do. I think you have to do it with all beers, actually. You just have to try and walk the line very nicely between balanced and unbalanced. And it just depends how good you can walk that line.
What I would like to see is if you could add some Bamberg smoke malt in there, because I think you could take that to a smoky level that would push it really a little bit further.
You can even get what's the Japanese, or is it, what's the Japanese flavour? So you got salt, you got salt, sour, sweet.
Umami.
So you'd almost be like umami beer.
Yeah, that would be, if you could add some of that smokiness in there, I think I'd die.
Interesting trial. I might have to get a bottle or a can of this with a little bit of Bamberg Rauch beer.
Yeah. And let's talk about that decision. It's only available in cans. That's the only way that you're doing this beer.
Yeah, I mean it's
why?
Well, it's very, very limited draft beer, but we've looked at all the numbers of what we have to make next year. We can probably get through more volume of draft, but we'll probably struggle to keep up. So the decision now is do it in cans. Which will be lower volume, but at least we can spread it out. We can spread the volume out a little bit easier than the keg volume. So.
And when can we get these? When can we see these cans available for general release, and particularly the larger cans that everyone's talking about?
So larger cans we don't have that on the drawing board yet, but we do have a larger can we make for Bayernburger, so that's coming out to them in a few weeks. But for this here, we have, I think it's on sale next week. So this is the official launch week, so I would assume next week it's all going in. So you can tell I don't work in sales.
This Saturday, we can see this rolled out here, there and everywhere.
Let me get back to you on that.
Okay.
But Saturday, I would assume so, because this week I think beer's going out the door.
But I can see this on the table with the turkey on the Christmas dinner.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay. Definitely.
So ladies and gents, we'll let you know when the cans are going to be available to purchase. They are amazing. There's no two ways about it. It's a game changer. This is going to be the beer that's going to define the tail end of 2014 and properly start defining what beer is going to start tasting like in 2015. Alex, thank you for your time this evening.
Thanks.
Justin, thanks for chipping in this evening as well as on this evening's show.
No problem at all.
And we'll let you know when the cans are available. Thank you very much.